Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. Founded in 2013, the EHL has become the college placement leader on the East Coast. Sit back and learn more about the next step in your junior hockey career.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, we take care of our own, as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 114 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, we recap an entertaining second week of postseason action. Kicking things off in the weekly rundown, the E-Crew discusses the 4 teams that have secured their spot in Providence and the 4 other teams that are vying for the final 2 tickets. As for the EHLP, we're down to the Divisional Finals as the pieces start to fall into place for next week's round robin. Moving along to the Fantasy Challenge, Lauren has been declared the unofficial winner this year with just 2 games remaining. Then, finally, we wrap things up by each giving a matchup to keep an eye on in the What to Watch For segment, and I make an early, bold prediction for next week's EHL Championship Game. What's up, guys? I have a great question to start this thing off. Does it feel like we've been in the playoffs forever, but it's really only just been like 2 weeks?
Yes and no. It feels like it's gone by quick, but
also slow.
Time. Yeah.
Like, why are we not in Providence yet?
Well, I think part of it is just because the 2 different leagues have started at different times. We already had 2 rounds for the EHL. Now we're just getting into the second round for the P. So I think that's where the illusion kind of comes into play.
Fair. It makes me feel like I'm at Northeastern. This is what we did with the women's and men's. Women's were already into the national tournament. Men's were still in Hockey East playoffs. So yeah, I agree with Anthony.
While you bring that up, before we get to the rundown, did you see Connor Bazal's Instagram posts?
Oh, was that the video?
He posted Connor's sister, Connor, of course, who played for the Rangers last year and helped them win their first ever EHL championship. Connor's sister plays at Ohio State, who just won NCAA Division I national championship. His Instagram caption for the picture with his sister with the national championship trophy was EHL championship greater than NCAA Division I national championship.
That was on Instagram?
It was on Instagram. It was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. But cool for his sister, because we actually talked about her on the podcast last year, I remember. And then she goes out and wins a national title. So
hey, sore topic. My Huskies lost to Minnesota Duluth in double OT.
Yay.
All right.
Love that.
Sorry, Jeff.
Man. Let's get to the weekly rundown.
It's time for the E-Crew's Weekly Rundown.
The E-Show Weekly Rundown is brought to you by the Junior Hockey Podcast, your home for junior hockey news, knowledge, and nonsense. Check them out at tjhpodcast.com.
And Anthony just brought this up. We are technically in the 3rd round of the EHL playoffs. And this is where I have to actually give my wife, Vicky, credit, and Justin can attest to this. We didn't know what to call this round, because this is what we're calling it is the wild card round. She came up with that name. A lot of names have been bounced around. Last chance, second chance. I think someone once called it the loser games, which I know that sounds bad.
Oh my God.
but I really do like this format, which is me sounding arrogant because I created it, right? But it's instead of having a bye, now you get a second chance, right? And the 2 games that we have in the wild card are really interesting. Like really interesting. So I'll start closer towards the north with the Rangers and Wolves. Like,
where you used to hail from, the North Division?
Yes, I used to, right? I actually signed an email last week to ALO that said Neil from the South.
Yeah,
yes.
Oh, we know.
Such a lie.
He's a Southerner.
I will prove it later in this episode, Lauren. But
yes,
let's
deep
focus.
South of Maine.
Technically, Maine is a huge state, Anthony. So I am from Southern Maine. But regardless, this Rangers Wolves. I'm going to make a statement here that the Rangers are going to take offense to, but it is true, right? This is the 4th year of the Frozen Finals. We should have had 5, but obviously there was a COVID year. But this is the 4th year of the Frozen Finals. Prior to the Frozen Finals, we had 4 seasons of best of 3 rounds and the best of 5. And we figured we wanted to create an event, and I think we have, right? For the people that have been there and experienced it, we've made an event. But since the Frozen Finals was created, the regular season champion has always made it to the Frozen Finals.
Ooh.
There's a chance they don't.
On.
There's a chance they don't. We know for a fact that the regular season champions never won the whole thing. And there's that curse that exists there. It's only happened once in the EHLP, so it's really almost a curse across the entire league. But man, could we have a finals without the Rangers, without the regular season champions? I think it's possible.
Could be without the Rangers. I mean, could be without the 87s, which is another team that we thought both of them were going to be, I don't know if we say shoo-ins, but we thought they were pretty much like virtual locks to make it to the Frozen Finals this year. And the Chiefs and Wolves aren't going to go quietly.
You gotta give credit to the Wolves because they're one of the teams that, like, at the beginning of the season, we didn't hate on them, but it was just more of we didn't see enough of them to really be like, oh, they're great. But then, like, second half of the season, they just took off, and we're just like, all right, we're going to be really good. And it's like, okay. And clearly it's paid off because they've made it this far, and they have what we call the last chance. They have one more chance to get in, and I think they could do it.
They transformed, Lauren. They made a lot of additions, and they just and like guys on the team themselves. Sorry, Anthony, we'll get back to that in a second. But like the guys that like Yelensky's kind of started off slow, right? And then he picked it up, and Johnston was good all year, and then Cavando put it into second gear. Declan House, like everybody just kind of stepped it up when they got those additions. And then Kilgallen, like one of the other additions.
Where is his name? That's the biggest name, I think.
Can't leave him to last.
Is he the X factor, Anthony?
Liam Kilgallen? I think so. But the thing is that the New England Wolves are very spread out, where they have talent in each position. Kilgallen being the goaltender, Julius Cavandel being the defenseman of the year. Then you have forwards like Alex Larissy, who's popped off, Kevin Johnson, Eddie's Grigoryevs. Just so many different people. And what I wanted to reply to Lauren was I think they're still playing that clip where I was like, the ProTech Junior Ducks, they beat the Wolves, who are like 1-8.
Just put out a repeat before every game. They're like, all right, let's go out there and have a day.
Bulletin board material. But
we've been hanging in their locker room all season.
They love their Anthony DePaulo. They love it.
I'm on that dartboard. But, you're right, Lauren, though. They do deserve credit for that turnaround. And even when they were losing, because I called the EHL game where they beat the 87s in overtime, and you're thinking, like, how are they in last place? So for them, it was just a matter of the talent coming together. And you got to give credit to them in that series against the Lumberjacks. They had their backs against the wall. They were down 1-0 in overtime. So if the Lumberjacks had scored, that would have been it. That would have been the end of their season. But they roared back. They dominated game 3. And while their series against the Avalanche didn't quite go as planned, they still have a legitimate shot at beating the Boston Junior Rangers. And their offense has been much better than Boston's.
Yeah. That's the key point right now.
That's what scares you right now, right?
I mean,
Rangers had a tough time scoring in that Express series, which those games are always whenever the Rangers and Express always, I know we'll dig into that more, but whenever they play tight, it's usually a 1-goal game. Rich said that to me at one point this season when I was doing their games.
So always is that the formula? Is it for the Wolves to keep this game, 4, maybe 5 total goals scored combined, and you have a chance to win it, or is it let it become a track meet and see what happens?
Because I can watch past Miller.
Because here's the thing. Nathan Miller has still been spectacular in this postseason. The defense and the goaltending for Boston is not the problem. So if the Wolves do want to turn it into a track meet, they just have, it's like if you go for the king, you better not miss. Where if you want to open the floodgates and play a more open game, you still have to solve Nathan Miller. So you have to make sure that if you take those shots and try to open up those floodgates, that you do score, because if not, even though Boston has had some trouble offensively, maybe they can catch the Wolves off guard and generate offense on the counterattacks if the Wolves are not careful and if they're pinching their D-men. So who knows how this game can go.
And I mean, if you add it up too, Neil, they scored, besides that 6-0 game 2 that they beat the Seahawks, they won 1-0 in game 1, which I was on the call for. That was a grinded out. Roebuck got a goal from the blue line, a nice goal, but kind of an odd one that I think Hawkins would like to have back. And then the other games against the Express, one of them was an empty netter, so they lost 3-1. And then they lost 2-1 in game 1. So Miller did his job. Like Anthony said, Miller did his job. The D did their job. It's just the offense. Like, where is it?
So that contradicts what I just said. Can it even turn into a track meet for the Rangers? Because in 3 of 4 playoff games, they've scored a goal. 1 goal. They've scored 1 goal in 3 of 4 playoff games.
Yep.
I mean, I'll be Captain Obvious. Whoever scores first is going to have a ton of momentum in this game, right? Obviously. And I think it's really interesting because both of these teams are entering this wild card game coming off of being swept, right? Yep. The Wolves got swept by the Avs and the Rangers got swept by the Express. I guess the question really is which one can turn the page faster and embrace what they're in, more early on in this game and take that, that last spot. Or
who's a more pissed off team, if you will.
Yes. I mean, if it was in Laconia, back to Anthony's statement, maybe they would come out in the beginning of the intro song would be Anthony saying that on that episode number, whatever. that would be pretty entertaining if they actually
just hear Anthony repeat the Wolves on anything. Wolves on anything. Let's go. It's a battle we go.
Yeah. So obviously, if the Rangers do win, they would punch their ticket for the 3rd time to the Frozen Finals, and they would keep their title defense alive. For the Wolves, if they do win, it would be their first time ever making it at the EHL level. They do have an appearance at the EHLP level, which crazy was the last time we were in Providence.
Yeah, I told you that last episode last week. Jack Johansson.
That is a decade ago. It is truly a decade ago. I know it's only 3 years, but it feels like a decade ago. But in terms of the other wild card game, and I know we're going to get to the fantasy and the brackets, but the only person who has an actual wild card matchup correct, both teams, is Lauren. So, Lauren, why did you know that it was going to be 87s versus Chiefs?
Lauren, crystal ball.
I mean, well, I'm a blue train now, so I got to pull for my boys. So obviously I was going to pull for them. And I'm glad they ended up pulling it off. Obviously, the Chiefs gave them a bit of a run for their money, pushed it to 3 games, which in the end didn't really surprise me with how those 2 teams have played against each other all season. I've been boasting about that matchup all season. Everybody knows that. And then 87s, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't have surprised me if they beat the Little Flyers, but at the same time, I'm not surprised the Little Flyers took it because it could have gone either way because the South is just so tight. But both teams have been hot all season, so it really could have gone either way, but I think the Little Flyers just ended up taking it because they have been good and they just decided to keep being good and hold themselves steady enough to beat the 87s because the 87s are not an easy team to beat.
Nope. Another team that's going to be real angry going into that playing game.
Yeah, so either or, right? Would you rather be the 87s who got swept by the Little Flyers and have now been off since Friday, right? So you go from Friday to Thursday for this game. Or would you rather be the Chiefs who forced game 3, which went all the way to Sunday, and now technically you have 2 less days to prepare, but I guess you could also say there's less rust with those 2 days. Which one would you rather be? The one that's been sitting around?
The old rust or rest question. Jeff Mills.
You almost got to think too that the 87s have just kind of been sitting there just stewing in the fact that they have to wait to see who they're playing. And then once they finally find out, then they can really start preparing because yes, you can kind of prepare, but at the same time, it's not until you really hear who you're going to be facing that you can truly prepare for okay, we know this about them and get going.
And they only played each other twice this year, Chiefs and 87s, with the 87s winning both of those 3-2, 5-2.
How big is home ice in both of these games?
Oh, massive. Like you just said with Merrill Fay, we've said that's one of the biggest home ice advantages in the league. And so now you got to go to breakaway, and I think that's massive. And in looking at those matchups too, since we're still toggling back and forth between both, Rangers won 3 out of those 4 matchups, 4-2, 4-2, 5-0, 6-1. So they were able to score some goals. The most recent win coming on March 2nd. So I got to look it up, but I think that was Kilgallen that was in the net too. So Rangers offense woke up during those matchups. For the 87s, their second win was on March the 3rd. So that's a recent game tape that you can kind of look at from this past month when they won 5-2. I still think they're both going to be tightly played and scored. Neither team's going to want to make that first mistake. So I feel like you could see 2-0 first periods, teams trying to figure each other out, not pinch too high in the offensive zone and let breakaways happen, even though they have faith in their goaltenders.
Does either game go to overtime?
Oh, jeez.
I mean, honestly, this may sound random, but like I think if anything, it could be the 87s and the Chiefs.
Really?
Hot take.
I think they're both good.
Anthony's like, I'm preparing my overtime game-winning goal call right now.
Anthony, let's say you. Hey, we're both going to be on the call for those, Anthony. I'll be on the call for Wolves Rangers. You'll be on the call for Chiefs 87s.
Well, it's funny. I was telling Tyler Arago how jealous I was that he's been getting all the overtime games. and shout out to him because some of his calls have been absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, he's been killing it. The Red Train are chugging to Providence. The Walpole Express are chugging to Providence. I texted that the other day. That was a good one.
Personally, I think it's good that the 87s have a couple of extra days off because I think they needed to calm themselves down. It was a hard-fought series against Philadelphia, and I think for the players and the coaching staff, it was definitely a frustrating series where the Little Flyers are one of the few teams that can play that similar style where it's just run and gun, stretching the ice, and just playing that super like high-tempo game where it can be hard to keep up with both teams. And I think if the 87s say to themselves, because they also outshot Philadelphia, Joseph Henson was phenomenal in that series. And I think for the 87s, it's okay, just keep playing that game, and there's a good chance that they can take this wild card game. I think for the Chiefs, they did have a rough loss in game 3. You could argue that maybe they kind of emptied the tank a bit, but I don't want to count them out because Jack Devine has been really good for the Chiefs. Marshall McCallum should be ready to go.
Like that second game, I was at that one with Trevor, and Marshall McCallum kept them in that game. He was standing on his head. I have loved watching him since having him on the All-Star team back in November. He is so good, and in games like that, he is the biggest reason why they win and stay in those games because he's just so steady in the net.
I just didn't see New Jersey getting swept, to be honest, and I think that really angered them. And that's a very talented, angry team.
Hang on. Can we please stop pretending that a sweep is so surprising when you only have to win 2 games?
You mentioned this the other day. It's true.
In the North American Hockey League, there's a best of 5 where you have to win 3 games, and I was there when the Titans did a reverse sweep. So I think if you have to win 3 or 4 games, it's a little harder. But with the best 2 of 3, you just need to
get the momentum.
In any other series, it's considered a quick start winning 2 games.
Right. No, I agree, Anthony. Good point. You brought that up the other day. I just didn't see either team losing back-to-back games like that. Honestly, I thought that was definitely going 3.
But they were both 1-goal games, so it still went down to the wire.
Right.
Which is a great transition because we talk about the 4 teams that are in the wild card. But we'll do this obviously again in a week with the Frozen Finals preview. But let's talk about the 4 teams that we know are going and start with those Little Flyers. When you compare this year's Little Flyers team to past years where they've won the regular season championship 4 times, not this year, but you can make the case that in previous years, the Little Flyers have never entered the Frozen Finals as hot as they are this year. Is anything but a championship for them next week a bust in Providence?
I think so because the last time that they were in Providence, Steel, when they brought both teams there and didn't come away with the hardware for either team. So I think, and Coach Catron was there. He remembers that very well, I'm sure. So going back into that building for the first time, I think that's going to be, that's absolutely the mission. Obviously, none of these guys were on that team 3 years ago, right?
No one.
Nobody that was like a young.
Nope.
Yeah. So
actually, funny. The last
someone that was on the premiere, maybe.
No, the last name is the same. The last name of the goalie was Alex Henson.
Alex Henson.
Joseph
him in the tunnel. I remember
no relation.
That is
no relation.
Crazy.
But it just hit me.
Wow.
It's amazing how some stuff I can remember and some stuff I don't. But
I remember interviewing him in the tunnel. I think I still have it on my phone. Holy hell.
but that's one of the teams that's going, and they are the 2 seed. They're locked into the 2 seed because the 1 seed and the team that we get to drop the puck with are the Avs. And I included this in my tweet.
We're here again.
Can you even have the Frozen Finals without the Avs? But how did they enter the postseason in reverse and then just flip the script and win 4 straight games and go? Have they put a tough February behind them, or are we going to get to Providence and maybe see a tougher opponent right off the bat with Walpole and the old Avs return again? Or is this the Avs team? Are they the biggest contender against the Little Flyers?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Spartans, Wolves. I mean, so you can judge those two accordingly, I guess, if you want, saying that they're not as tough as some of these other teams. Wolves are still around, so they have some toughness to them. They got some wolf bite, if you will. Pun intended. But I mean, the Avs just do this every year now. We've been here for quite some time, and they have that switch that you always talk about that they can flip and just add up their goals. 6 goals, 3, 4. So they came in and stormed through with 12 plus 3 is 15 plus 4.
I love your math.
19 goals. Just doing it on the fly.
He's counting on all his fingers and toes for those that can't see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Where did Kyle Dan come from?
Yeah, 6 goals. I was just gonna say there wasn't even 6 goals from Kyle Danny and 2 in the regular season.
Like what?
How did Chris predict that?
And he called this, right? And he called this, right? And I think that's our first game in Providence. We've already locked that one in. Got to give the Little Flyers some time to get up there. If I have the Avs, the Express, and the Railers who all are closer than the Little Flyers, you have to give the Little Flyers the second one. So the first game of the finals on Wednesday the 30th would be the Avalanche versus the Express. Second game is Little Flyers, Railers. I want to get to those 2 other teams in a second, because what's interesting about the Avs is who do you pull for in that wild card game? Because if the Wolves win, the Wolves are the 6th seed and they're in your pool, and you play them again next week.
And it's a familiar face that knows you and you know
maybe,
them.
I mean, maybe that'd be a good thing because you would probably know them a little better. Plus, they're in your division, so you've seen them a lot this season, so that could work out in their favor.
But to win
then
3
again, the Rangers,
straight,
you know really well.
Yes,
they might as well be in the same division. Rangers, Avs.
To win 3 straight against the Wolves right now, at this time of year, is tough. It's the same thing with the 87s and the Little Flyers, because they could end up in the same pool, right? For the Rangers, I believe, I know Rich is going to text me as soon as I say this, have won the last 5 or 6 games dating back like 2 years against the Avs. Straight. The Avs haven't beat the Rangers. So it's like, who do you pull for in that? Because in a way, they could end up in your pool, or they could end up against you in the semifinals. It's kind of tough to predict. But
actually, wasn't the last time the Avs beat them that opening day game that we did 2 years ago?
Yes.
That shootout?
That was
a shootout.
You tell me the year.
There's no shootouts this time.
Yes.
It was 2019. 2020.
I think it was 2020. Yes.
So we were spaced out. I remember that.
Every single game since then, the Rangers have won.
Yeah.
So it's like, or do you want to get the Wolves fresh off a wild card win in their first game of the Frozen Finals? It's a tough thing. It's a tough way to go, right? But then their first matchup, don't get too far ahead, right? Jack Bossard saying, you know what, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to take over this entire postseason. How good has he been so far for Walpole?
Absolutely.
I think he's a big reason why they've gone. I think the Express are going to be a bit of a dark horse in this finals because, excuse me, I don't want to say like completely wrote them off, but like I think some people just kind of looked at them or like, oh, like didn't see too much in them. But I think they're definitely like the fact that they beat BGR, and BGR is not an easy team to beat. I think the fact that they were able to pull that off, they should be holding themselves pretty high up and like try to build off of that as much as they can, because that's a huge feat that they did. And like, I think they're like, just the fact that they did that has solidified a name for themselves going into these finals.
I think we've talked about Bossard a lot this year. I think I remember asking Josh Holmstrom this during the season, one of the showcases, and I think he even said, I was talking to him about the forwards, the scoring. I think it was around the trade deadline. And he said he was confident in the bunch that they had and they weren't going to make any like huge additions. And so I think that they get judged accordingly. They're no team that doesn't give up a lot, but they don't score a whole lot of goals. You got Guelph and Page that were 2 double-digit goal scorers, and then Pratt too, but that's it. So they kind of go scoring by committee. So they don't do it in a sexy way. They kind of grind you out. And in 2022, we like sexy, right? We like the 5-6 goals a game. Hey, sex, we're bringing sexy back.
Oh my God.
What up, Justin Timberlake? Oh, Justin, sorry, we don't have copyright, so I'll stop singing now.
We'll have to
cost us a lot of money.
We'll have to timestamp that once we get that video out. Anyways, but for Boschert, what's the number that sticks out to me is he has 44 more saves in the postseason than the next closest goaltender in the league. Like, he's been that good, and he really could have won goalie of the week back-to-back weeks if Henson didn't do what he did against the 87s. Boschert's been simply that good. And I guess the question that I still have to ask Josh Holmstrom, which maybe I'll do it at the end of the first game in the post-game press conference, is win or lose for him. What happened at the end of the first period against the Wizards after they had just lost game 2 in triple overtime and were down 2-0? What happened starting in the second period of game 3 until now, where the script is just flipped? And they go out, they win, score 5 unanswered to win that, and then they sweep the Rangers. Like, what was said in that moment? Could you even imagine? Like, because where did this come from?
We'll find out. I'd like to know that answer, because I don't know. None of us know the answer to that question.
I'm sure nothing was said.
They might not tell us.
That's probably
Neil, for all we know, Holmstrom probably just could have gone into the locker room and be like, guys, just score more goals than them.
Maybe they did a little like coach call with old Cody Campbell, or Zach Simon came in and did a little guest appearance. It was like, boys, remember me? Let's do this.
Well, for Josh, what he does have over Cody too, and Cody, if he hears this, won't like this. This is the first ever appearance for the Express in the Frozen Finals, right? And technically, you could dub them as the host team because they're the closest one right now to Providence. Big reason why they're going to the finals, though, is because it's the first year that our Justin Squitieri is actually going to be in person at the finals. So it just happened to be.
We can't go there without our
man. Because Justin is actually going to be there. They're like, you know what? Now this is the year we're going to punch our official ticket, right?
Makes sense to me.
But they're not the only team that's going for the first time. The Railers are also going for the first time, and of the 4 teams that are going, is there value in the fact that nobody has played more postseason games than the Railers, because both of their series went to game 3. Is there value in that for them?
Is there value, or does it hurt them? Are they going to be pretty tired once they come on into this series? I don't think so, because you were telling us before we got on here that Matt Odessa's all fired up, and I'm sure the rest of the Odessa family is going to siphon that energy to the rest of the team, and they're all going to roll in and be all jacked up. But I don't know.
And no, because they're also going to have more rest just by default than the teams in the wild card. So
yeah, right.
I think it could be good too, because like they not only did they end up in all 3 games both times, but it was like they almost kind of had the reverse, because if I remember correctly, I think the Apple Corps shut them out in the first one, and then the and then they shut out the Chiefs in the last one. So like they kind of had it flipped, where it was like they started off where like they got completely like shut down, and then they ended up finishing out by shutting out the team.
No. I believe the Railers won 7-0 that first game. They lost game 2 when Apple Corps forced game 3.
Right, yes.
Yeah, 7-0, 4.
But then the Apple Corps jumped out to a 3-1 lead in game 3, right? Like, so what was said? They didn't go into the locker room. They were on the bench. What was said on the bench?
To score 5 unanswered and win 6-3.
like fast too. Like, let's just go up and down the ice, like boom, 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 boom. Which
guys, this is it.
At that one, and we're just like, this is just nuts. They just kept piling it on, and we're like, this is the type of team that we've been waiting to see, where they just went off.
Well, no, Neil, I know what they said. They said, okay, our 5-minute major is up, time to score, because Apple Corps did score their goals on the power play.
3 of them.
Yeah.
So maybe there's value in them having played 6 games. Technically, Walpole played 5, but you could make the case that Walpole played 6 with all the overtimes, right? And then the Avalanche and Little Flyers each 4. There's great value in what the Railers EHL team is doing this Saturday. Where are they practicing on Saturday?
At Schneider. Oh, they want to figure out the ice, figure out the boards.
I mean, the ice is great, right? It's not it's not like the boards have the kick that the Zamboni door has at breakaway, right? Like everything works.
Hey, don't be telling secrets,
dude. Like when the puck wraps and it kicks hard into the slot, you have to give an assist to the door. Like
last month, I've called 4 games up there. That thing is real. That is an absolute. There's a spring in that board up there. Holy heck.
The ice is true, right? And the boards are true in Providence. Right. But the fact that Sean texted me and like set this up to like get his guys in there for the first time, so it's not when the puck drops, right? To feel what it's like. To me, that's kind of cool. Like that's
very cool. Secrets right now. Are you going to be screwing them by telling this information?
All the teams can do it. All the teams can do it. You just have to ask me for the contact of Providence. Eric Durson, unreal guy. He'll set you up for a practice slot. Like
same guy we've had the last bunch of years now.
Yes, yeah, which he even in previous years where we've had to accommodate they're accommodating us because it's their home. Right? We've had to move stuff around. This year we have to do it again, but for the Providence Bruins this time, there's a practice for them in between 2 of our games, which will actually be kind of cool because Edward Trailmox from the Boston Bandits is with the Providence Bruins, our 2015-16 MVP. So we'll get to see him, right? But
mix.
But the point is, like, the reason why I love Providence so much is because we take over the building and they embrace it. And like the second this year's finals end, Eric will do what he did with me last time and we'll set the dates like immediately for next year because they can't wait for us to be back. But it's and the fact that they're so open to our teams coming down to practice there also is just what makes it really sweet. But that covers all of the EHL. So we know 4 teams that are going. We have 4 other teams trying to vie their way for the final 2 spots. But now let's go to the EHLP because there's going to be 4 teams that go from the EHLP also. And it's really interesting, each of the 3 division finals. So we'll start with the South because in the South, neither one of those teams can win the at-large bid. So all their eggs are in the basket of, we have to win this, otherwise our series is over. And I know Jeff kind of made this statement earlier. Nobody in these games between the 87th and Little Flyers was a part of the 2018-19 South Division Finals where the Little Flyers beat the 87s to go to the finals. But Anthony, is there a little bit of revenge on the 87 side of things for that, or maybe even for the EHL series? Is there a sense of let's go get some revenge for our organization in New Jersey?
Yeah, definitely not from 2019 because these are all like 16-year-olds, a lot of 04 and 05s on this team. And I think you could definitely say revenge from the EHL series, but also talking to some of the guys after their game 3 win over the Chiefs, the mantra was, hey, like they beat Philadelphia twice in February and March in the regular season. So this is a very winnable series. The Little Flyers got past the Renegades. They were both 1-goal games. You remember how the Renegades had upset Philadelphia last season? Philadelphia was just able to avoid that. So I think that and with the 87s, they have a record of 19-19-4, but they really turned it on in 2022. So I think it could be very similar to the EHL series where, while the records might not show it, these are actually 2 very equal teams. And it could also be, just like the EHL side, a really good battle for the South.
And I'm sure we all think it's going to go 3 and it'll end up going just 2 and we'll all be surprised. But it's interesting because the 87s are still defending EHLP champions, and just like the Rangers are, one step away. Rangers in the EHL are 1 step away from getting back to the finals and giving yourself at least a chance to defend your title. But it comes down to that series. Only one of those teams is going to go because of what took place in the other 2 series. The Avalanche are facing the Lumberjacks, and win or lose, the Avalanche at the EHLP level are going to the finals for the first time. They've never been to the finals of the EHL, which is crazy. Which is crazy because right behind me right here, this is the EHLP regular season championship trophy that Vinny said to me, I don't want to see. Because he saw it last year, and whatever. Like, I guess there's
you see in the NFL and NHL, that's what they do. Some teams I don't want to touch the conference championship.
But I get it. Like in the EHL, the regular season champion has never won the playoff championship. It's happened once in the EHLP. So maybe there's still a curse, but it's not as complete of a curse. But now for that matchup, if you're the Lumberjacks, obviously you have to win to go to get back there for the second time, which is a rematch from last year. It is a rematch. Well, I was going to stick with the Lumberjacks for a second because the Avalanche won game 1 last year and then lost back-to-back games in overtime against the Lumberjacks to go. Meanwhile, the Railers and Rangers are like, we're huge Avs fans because if the Avs win the series, you're both going.
Yeah.
So it's like, are we just going to be scoreboard watching the entire time in the EHLP? We have to be, right? A little bit.
Probably. But maybe with the EHL, I thought there was going to be a ton of 3-game series in the EHL. So maybe this reverses. Maybe what do we do? What do we send the 2-game energy and then we get 3 or I don't know what to do.
I'm going to use the word value again, right? Which maybe I find a way to mix into the title of this podcast somehow. But for the 87s last year, when we had an at-large bid in the EHL, they knew they were going no matter what because they were the regular season champions. But Coach Hooley said, I want to play this thing through. And they went out and they won their way there anyways. For the
he's not the only coach to use this phrase, doing it the right way.
Boom.
And coaches have so much pride in doing things right. So I think for the Avalanche, and Neil, you brought up a great point, how the Lumberjacks upset the Avalanche last season. So I think that for the Avs series, there's also going to be some revenge involved.
Yeah. And Vinny was there last year and he knew that we were all trashing on, I use that in quotations, on Chris and Mario for being the Cinderella team. They got that every day. We were all there. Every day it was like, oh, you guys are still here. You're lucky, Cinderella. So they don't want
the charity bid.
Oh, yeah, the Jimmy Fun team.
We're still going to get that with the wild card stuff this year, but it's going to be wild or interesting, compelling, whatever the word is, to see what Avalanche team comes out, because I think there is that revenge factor for them to knock off the Lumberjacks. And then when you shift over to the Railers and Rangers, there's revenge there also in that, yes, you could be scoreboard watching, but for the Rangers, the Railers knocked you out last year and were the reason why you didn't go to the finals. So maybe if you're the Rangers and you catch the Railers watching the scoreboard too much, you take advantage and you end their season this year, because you just don't know if Vermont is going to win that series. You know what I'm saying?
They have the inside track, though. Michael Grace has switched sides. No longer a Railer. He's a Ranger. Yes. So he's got the inside scoop. So here comes Gracer with the BJRP boys, and we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, those should be great matchups. We are very lucky.
Yeah, we're very lucky. And I think what's interesting, too, is that we've already talked about the Express and the Railers and the EHL going to the finals for the first time, right?
It's very cool.
When all of
we
these,
always want.
Yes, when all of these EHLP series end, we may have multiple organizations that have both their EHL and EHLP teams in Providence.
Last year we had 2. We had 87s and Lumberjacks.
Yes,
both. Yeah.
So
what a difference.
That will be crazy to see how things play out. So that's where we're at right now with the weekly rundown, and we'll have to reset things, of course, when we know who all the finals teams are in a week. But with that, let's go to fantasy.
It's time for the eCrew Fantasy Challenge.
And the eCrew Fantasy Challenge is presented by BioSteel, the sports drink of the EHL. Use the promo code ESHOW, that's ESHOW, for 25% off when you check out at biosteel.com.
So with fantasy, I will start by saying that I did make a mistake earlier in the episode. Lauren is not the only person that has the 87s versus Chiefs in the wild card matchup. Justin actually had it also. And technically Justin's bracket, which has remained offline, but we'll post it when it's done, because his bracket is technically the best of all of ours because he has 68 points. But Justin, I will say you didn't pick Walpole, but that's a different conversation.
But it's always dangerous when you're trying to like root for your team, but not. I don't totally disagree with not taking them.
But it's funny. That's like his only like mistake, right? Is the reason why he's in the car driving up to us right now. But still,
I did have that in 3 games. Just saying.
Okay, fair. But his bracket is the best at 68 points, and it's not even close compared to the rest of us. But let's get to the rest of fantasy, which there's still 1 week left with 2 wildcard games. But for all intents and purposes, Jeff and Anthony, the 3 of us lost.
Lawrence Smith, the rookie of the year. Well done, Lauren.
Unless one of us just like Jeff, it really comes down to you, right? Because you would need about 50 points in 2 games, right?
All right.
Which,
hey, didn't you wish for Boschert to get like 80 saves and they went into that double overtime game?
Yes, so. Which I didn't come close to that. So, I mean, you would need like 50. Anthony would need about 65 probably, and I would need about 70. So
we have just 4 players this week.
So you're saying there's a chance. Of course there's a chance, right? But
oh, Neil, did you just say we're bringing back the 12-6-3 format?
Yes, just for right now. You know what? We're actually going to do all the EHLP games also. But let's break down what took place this past week. First for Anthony, who put up 26.6 points. He had a goal and 2 assists from Eden Hotchkiss, an assist for James Metler. He mentioned this earlier in the podcast. Despite not getting a win, Nathan Miller did play very well in those 2 games for the Rangers. And then Devlin came with an assist. So that got Anthony 26.6 points when you also factor in the 5 bracket points. And then, Anthony, you lead us off. Who are your 4 selections for the 2 wildcard games?
Okay, I'm going to start off with the New England Wolves. I never doubted them this entire season. No siree, not at all.
You're making amends with everyone today.
Alex Larissy with 7 points in 5 games, has 1 goal, but he has 6 apples, and I think he could really be an X factor in this playoff game. I'm also going to go with I actually have a couple of players from the Boston Junior Rangers as well, so I'm just hoping everybody pops off. Victor Malzahn on defense. He has 4 points in as many games. He has an even 2 goals, 2 assists. Neil, I know you love that symmetry.
Oh, I do.
2 and 2, 4 points in 4 games. That's just wonderful to look at from the stat sheet. In goal, I got Nathan Miller again. Even in the playoffs, even though he has a 2-2 record, a goals against average below 1. It's at .92. His save percentage is at .968. Both of those stats are better than the regular season. The only place where he's not better is shutouts, but obviously he can't get 10 shutouts in 4 games. I mean, who knows?
He's got 1 in the playoffs. He's got 1.
Anything is possible. With the utility player, I'm going with Jake Rock. He has 6 points in 4 games. Very underrated forward on this 87s team. Coach Adam Hooley is very excited about him at the start of the season, compared him to Tim DeBoard, and he's really turned it on this postseason. So I think that he could be a player to watch for in that wild card game.
As for Jeff in the second round, Matthew Zdanowicz got him a goal and 2 assists. Tyler Anastasi, a power play goal. Liam Kilgallen, just like Miller, didn't win a game, but made 70-plus saves and looked good in doing so. And then he had Alex Larissy with an assist, plus 7 bracket points, brought Jeff up to 29.6. And Jeff, to wrap up our fantasy for the year, who are your final 4 fantasy picks this year?
Hey, final 4. Let's make it easy. Let's keep you all not getting motion sickness, and we'll just go in order here. So we got Mr. Matthew Zdanowicz, had him last round, did pretty well for me, and has done pretty well for the 87s, up to 10 points in the playoffs so far. So we're going to go with Zdanowicz again. Julius Cavandel, one of the best defensemen that's left in this play-in round. So an easy move there. Josh Grunt could be an X factor. 3 assists in 4 games. Doesn't have a goal yet, but we'll see what he can do here in this play-in game. They're going to need him because, like we said, the Rangers offense has been a bit dry through the first bunch of games, and that's the reason they're in this play-in round. Sorry, Rich, I love you, but I think you would probably agree with me, and I'll see you Friday. We could chat about that before the game. And then Owen Haynes for the 87s, because, again, I think Adam Hooley's 87s are going to be coming out on top in that wild card game. Again, we'll say our sorries again. Sorry, Coach Heff. Sorry to Brandon Johnson. Sorry to the rest of the Chiefs organization, Mitch Beck, everyone else. Did I miss anyone else? Trent Samuels Thomas. I'm taking my sorries, but so Owen Haynes is my goalie, and yep, there's the final four. Let's go, boys. We need like 9 million points, like Neil said, to catch Lauren, but I don't think it's happening.
Dude, I've actually had a good postseason. I had 79 points in the first round, 43.6 in the second, but I'm still in fourth place, not last.
47 points in the bracket, though, too.
Yeah,
Lauren, 47 each.
Damon Dulac got me a goal and 2 assists last week. Victor Malzahn an assist. Jack Bosher, we've talked about it, been excellent. 20.6 points from him. Jack Devine was like, no points in the second round for Neil, but I'll save him for the wild card game. And then 14 points, like Jeff said, in the bracket, gave me 43.6. So to wrap up the year, I figured I would show all 4 teams the love. So Matt Anastasio up front at forward, Dominic Cherico on defense from the Chiefs, Liam Kilgallen in goal, and Nick Cullinan from the Rangers. So I got one player from each team, which brings us to the unofficial champ. It's basically official, but we need to wait a few more days. Lauren
She's
put
smiling.
up 53.6 points this past week because Drew Oliveri got her a goal, 3 assists, 2 power play points, and a game winner. Matt Herrick didn't get any points, but that didn't matter because she got 2 wins from Joseph Henson.
I finally got goalie wins.
Yeah, which is like, of course it comes now. And then a goal and assist and a game winner from Adam Beauvais plus 17 bracket points for 53.6. So icing on the cake.
That without Herrick getting any points.
Oh my God. So icing on the cake, Lauren, who are your final 4 picks to cap off your championship season?
I picked some fun ones. I think I took some, I guess, advice from Anthony, I guess you would say, Mr. 87 himself, picking Devlin O'Kane up front. Big guy for them, and it's exciting to have him back. On defense, another fun name we all love is Declan House. He's been good for the Wolves all season. He surpassed 100 points at this point, which is exciting for him. So good to have him on my team. And then in goal, I'm finishing out with one of my red team all-stars. Love this guy. He was huge in that game that he played against the Railers in Newington. Marshall McCallop, so good. He's just the right guy for the job for them, excuse me, when they need it. And finishing out with my utility pick, I'm picking Mr. Eddie's Grigorievs. I'm excited to have him on the team. He's been good for the Wolves since they picked him up, so I'm excited to see how he finishes out the season.
So Lauren wants McCallum to play well, but the 87s to win because, as Jeff mentioned, in terms of just the bracket, which is where I have to put my flag down because I actually did pretty well here. Lauren and I each have 47. Jeff had 44. Anthony had 32. So technically, Lauren can win the bracket and the fantasy if the 87s win the game. If the Chiefs win, I don't know what we do about a tie for the bracket, but it doesn't matter because she won fantasy anyways. Her overall point total is at 862.8. Jeff's at 822. Anthony's at 802.6, and I'm at 799. Anthony will come up with some side bet for our 3.6 margin. Whoever finishes in 4th place has to do something in Providence. I don't know what it is yet, but we're really on top of each other.
Sprint a lap between the break
for the last month. Yeah, seriously, maybe, right? Something like that. But that's where we're at with fantasy. So let's get to what to watch for.
Before we wrap things up, here's what to watch for this week in the E-Show.
What to Watch For is presented by Hockey TV, the official streaming platform for your EHL and EHLP action through the 2021-2022 season.
So we will stay consistent with what we've done all postseason. You could pick one of 5.
It's pretty simple, right?
You could pick one of 5 matchups, right? You could pick either wild card game in the EHL, or you could pick any of the 3 series in the EHLP. What am I looking forward to the most is the Avalanche EHLP team doing it the right way past the Lumberjacks to get to the finals, because this is their first time going. And I do think there's the confidence factor in their heads of winning their way there and knocking off the team that knocked them off last year to get there. So I'm watching that, which leaves you 3 guys with 4 to choose from. So
roll Avs roll into the tree. They go. The Avalanche take the trees out. We'll see.
Oh my God. Whoever wants to go
cheesy.
next.
There's my dad joke for Neil and Justin for the week.
I love dad jokes.
Yes, you do.
Whoever wants to go next. What are you watching for the most?
I mean, I guess I'll just be selfish and go with the game that I'm calling because I think it's another big one. Rangers Wolves. We've talked about them both all season. Will the Rangers be going back? We've never had, as you said earlier in this episode, Neil, a regular season champion not at least get to the Frozen Finals. That team wants to defend their title. We've been talking about it all year, and will they be able to get there? They're on home ice, 12:30. See you there at Breakaway Ice Center. Wolves real hungry to knock them off on the road, and I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just hoping for a very good game. I think it will be.
All right, who's saying 87s versus Chiefs first? The guy that's calling it or Lauren?
I mean, I feel like I kind of have to say that because of my bracket.
True. That is a good point.
Got a lot riding on that game. Plus, I mean, I think it'll be fun because I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out because the Chiefs didn't just sit by and let the Railers take it. They pushed it to 3. And I think like the home ice advantage did kind of play into that a little bit. I think they were not they were nervous coming to Worcester, but I think the fact that they brought it back home, they were like, all right, we can figure this out. And they clearly did that game. No loss there to Marshall McCallum because he's the one that really kept them in that game, as we keep saying. And I think it'll be interesting to see how they fare against the 87s because they're another tough team. So it'll be interesting because 87s I know are definitely just for how long they've been sitting there waiting for the outcome of the Railers Chiefs. I think they're roaring to go. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
You can double down, Anthony, if you want to.
Well, I think we got to give the Killer P some love with the 87s and Little Flyers. You got the likes of Will O'Brien and Jeffrey Boker for the 87s, and then for the Philadelphia Little Flyers, you have Johnny Dangerously, who's been so great in this postseason. I heard that shout out, Jeff and Lauren, on the EHLP Awards show.
We got you.
Glad to see that nickname catching on, but it's just like the EHL series. It should be Mark Hatcher on the Flyers coach gave me some flack for calling it a bloodbath in my preview. He put it best where it's two skilled teams going at it. So maybe track meet, two teams just heading head to head. So apologies to Mark. I'll be sure to describe this one a little more accurately.
Okay.
Because just like the EHL, again, you have two very skilled teams going up against each other, and it should be a fun series.
And the one that wasn't mentioned, of course, is Rangers P, but we are watching that also. Like they are watching the Avs and Lumberjacks just to see how things play out. It's going to be interesting to see what 4 teams come out of this in the EHLP. And I'm going to make one more statement right now, which is your homework for next week's episode. You don't have to make it right now. But your homework for next week's episode is to come up with your bold prediction for the EHL Frozen Finals. And it's not a matter of who wins. It's just a bold prediction. So
I'll see a goal. We'll see a goalie goal.
So now
it'd be fun.
I don't want to catch you guys off guard, so you don't have to do it right now. But my bold prediction, and everyone's going to hear this, and there's going to be a bunch of other teams that are going to say, what the hell? But my bold prediction, I'll repeat it again next week. The last time we were in Providence, it all ended with Avs and Little Flyers EHL. That was the EHL Championship Game in 2019, Avs and Little Flyers. That's how it's going to end again this year. So now you guys have a week to sit on that and think about what your bold prediction is as well. So I'll repeat that again in the week, but it's right now I'm going with Avs versus Little Flyers in the EHL Championship Game. So you guys can think about that for next Monday, which of course next Monday's the 28th. We're dropping the podcast for the finals on the 29th. So this podcast, then one more, then all of a sudden we're in Providence. It's crazy how we've got here, but we're right up against the end, and one more big week of the postseason remains though to figure out what 10 total teams, 6 EHL, 4 EHLP, are going to be in Providence. So enjoy this next week, guys.
Good luck to all those teams out there.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.